Ann Coulter drops a bombshell on Ana Kasparian in front of a live audience, and the audience is stunned by what Ann Coulter said. They are shocked because she said something along the lines of, black people lie more, I think is what she said. Listen to their reaction. It's absolutely hilarious.
The peaceful yoga instructor was shot because of immigration combined with this insane idea that we owe immigrants affirmative action. This Somali was rushed through the Minneapolis police cadets exam, violated about 4 rules off the top of my head so that the good people of Minnesota could brag about having a real live Somali on the police force. That was what killed Justine Damond. And we didn't do anything to the Somalis. What we did was send them food, which the warlords took, so we sent in a fighting force to make sure they got food. There was no slavery, no Jim Crow to make up.
I just love this dude right here. He's supposed to be the mediator, right? He's just in the middle shaking his head.
And yet, they arrived yesterday, so they get affirmative action on the police.
So you're in favor of supporting cops, and you're in favor of cops shooting and killing unarmed individuals,
I think it's gonna
unless they're Somali. Because if they're Somali, well, then they must be terrorists, and that's the reason why they decided to open fire.
Nothing of
it's
the sort.
Ridiculous. The inconsistencies in the argument.
If you lower standards, you won't get cops that are as good. That's a fact. It has nothing to do with terrorism. As for what Trump said, I mean, look, you guys, have at it. If you want to adopt the feminist motto of that's not funny, fine, have at it. I'm sure you'll swing the electorate. Trump was joking, people laughed. Analyzing Trump's every joke is, I think, not helping you.
Yeah.
So,
killing unarmed people is real funny.
It could have been a joke. It did seem.
See, the thing with Anna is that sometimes she gets too emotional, and then she does what a lot of women do and drop a comment down below if this isn't you. So that big shout out to the women who don't do this. But she just jumped to a conclusion that Ann Coulter is somehow laughing about people dying when that was not conveyed at all. And when she does things like that, she kind of just looks unprofessional and kind of stupid. But it sucks because sometimes Ana Kasparian, when she's emotional about some topics, sometimes she has good points. This, however, not one of them.
Very borscht spell. The whole thing was very jocular. I don't know. Maybe he was joking. But okay, let's go a little broader with the same point, right? Black Lives Matter has spent years saying we have a policing violence problem. Do we have a police violence problem?
Not as much as we have a black males killing black males problem. And that's,
yeah.
I think I care more about black lives. It is cops that are trying to save black lives, are putting their lives on the line to save black lives. I also think that so much of this is brushing what I think the original problem is under the rug, and I don't want to drag us in a completely different direction, but it is the destruction of the black family by the welfare state, paying women to have illegitimate children. And once you start with that, all is lost at a young age, and I think that's what we really need. I wish instead of spending so much time trying to assimilate and English as a second language, if instead in the 60s we had just spent it all on African Americans, I think we'd be a lot better off.
Yeah. We also have a problem in the country of white men killing white men, because guess what? Criminals kill people in their areas, and we live in segregated neighborhoods. And so if you look at the numbers, you see the same thing when it comes to white individuals. So that right-wing talking point is empty, to say the least. But anyway.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know when the left started understanding per capita. I think it's 46% of black Americans are responsible for homicide. 46% of it is attributed to black Americans. So, that's not and it's male specifically. That's 6% of the population. Now, I get it's not all 6%. It's actually even smaller fraction of the 6%. And they're repeat offenders. Normally, they're committing multiple crimes. And the homicide ones, people don't just start out with killing people as their first crime. It kind of is a snowball effect, and they start to develop that God complex where they can't get caught. So I think per capita was just understood by the progressives and the left roughly 6 months ago.
Again, trying to get into the heart of the issue, is there racial bias in the criminal justice system? In the new Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander talks about black people are over-arrested, over-prosecuted, over-convicted, and over-sentenced.
Well,
right?
my favorite stat when it comes to that has to do with marijuana, because I love marijuana. So, it's interesting because...
He's like, why aren't you clapping? He's like, why are you clapping? Don't you smoke weed?
There was a study looking specifically, looking specifically into marijuana use rates, and they compared white marijuana users to black marijuana users, and the researchers found, all right, they use marijuana at similar rates. But it's interesting because blacks are 4 times more likely to be arrested and prosecuted for marijuana possession. Which is, by the way, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Latino, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be prosecuted for marijuana possession. That's a gigantic waste of our resources.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't think it is. And the reason why is because I don't think the police are just going up to random black people like they're portraying it and just arresting them. I think what's happening is that there's probably a large group of black people that are associated with perhaps criminal activity within the town, and so the police are basically just trying to get them off of the streets by coming up with not necessarily bullshit charges, but charges that aren't as legitimate as probably they're hoping. I think it might be not so much lazy cop work, but maybe unethical. I don't know. Listen, if it's illegal to have drugs, it's illegal to have marijuana. If it's illegal to cross the border, it's illegal to cross the border. We have rules and regulations, and just because you don't agree with them doesn't mean that you don't get to abide by the law. You can add a lot of nuance, and I really don't give a fuck about your nuance until the laws are changed.
But I found that study so interesting because, again, we're talking about similar rates, but why is it that one group gets targeted more often than the other group?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. This is based on self-reports. There have been further studies where they actually drug test the person after asking, do you smoke pot? Have you smoked pot in the last week? And it turns out there's a racial difference in telling the truth on did you smoke pot. Blacks were about 10 times more likely to lie and say they hadn't smoked pot. Point 2, you can find it. I'll email it to you and you can post it.
Did you guys hear the crowd on that one? Watch. Listen again.
And say they hadn't smoked pot. Point 2, you can find it. I'll email it to you and you can post it. But the second point is nobody goes to prison for possession of pot.
That's untrue.
More than... No, I know you're all potheads and you're going to have trouble following what I'm about to say. But as you will be able to read in failing New York Times, almost 90% of people in prison are in prison as a result of a plea bargain. No one gets arrested and tried for possession of marijuana. But if they happen to have marijuana on them, that's what they plea it down to. You don't need witnesses, you don't need a trial. So it may be on the record, but you're not going to prison for that. You're going to prison because you held up a liquor store with a sawed-off shotgun and they found pot on you.
Oh my gosh, this is I think this is a great point. Great point. Something I was kind of saying similarly, but better way of saying it. So thank you, Ann, for the alley-oop there. What I was about to say is Marky Mark, which is Mark Wahlberg, got arrested for attempted murder, and his plea deal also was like 45 days in prison. Or like, I think after a year it's supposed to be like jail. So unless it's a year, it's not prison. You stay in jail. At least That's what I remember it being in Arizona. But 45 days he was locked up for attempted murder. Now, why is that? Because attempted murder is a very big deal. I think it's just because of the plea deals, like she's saying. Anyways, guys, that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.